David Harrison sat in his living room staring at his wife's text message for the third time. Working late again. Don't wait up. It was 8:47 p.m. on a Thursday, the same message he'd been receiving 3 times a week for the past 2 months. He looked around their empty house, the dinner he'd prepared sitting cold on the table, the romantic candles he'd lit now melted halfway down. Something wasn't right. His best friend Marcus had warned him 2 weeks ago. Man, I hate to say this, but 3 late nights every week, that's not normal. David had defended Lisa then. They'd been married for 6 years. She was a marketing executive at Sterling and Associates. Of course she worked late sometimes, but lately it was more than sometimes. Tonight, something inside him snapped. He grabbed his car keys, his hands shaking slightly. He wasn't the jealous type. He'd never followed Lisa before, but the pattern was too consistent. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Always the same excuse. Always home after midnight. David drove toward downtown where Lisa's office was located. His heart pounded as he navigated through traffic. What would he find? Part of him hoped he was being paranoid. Part of him already knew the truth would hurt. Before we continue with David's heartbreaking discovery, I need to ask you something important. If you're enjoying this story and want to see how it unfolds, please hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, it takes 1 second and it helps me create more stories like this. Also, smash that like button. Let's get this video to 10,000 likes. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to know. Now, let's get back to David's story, because what he's about to discover will change everything. David parked across the street from Sterling and Associates. The office building was mostly dark. Only a few windows glowed with light on the upper floors. He checked his phone. 9:23 p.m. He waited and waited. At 9:45, his phone buzzed. Lisa's text. Still working. Probably another 2 hours. Love you. David stared at the dark office windows. If she was working, why were most lights off? Where exactly was she? Then he saw it. Lisa's silver Honda pulling out of the building's underground garage. His breath caught. She'd lied. She wasn't working late at all. David started his car and followed, keeping 2 vehicles between them. His mind raced with possibilities, each worse than the last. Was she seeing another man? Was their marriage a lie? Lisa's car headed away from their neighborhood. She drove for 20 minutes, finally pulling into an older part of town David rarely visited. The buildings here were worn, some abandoned. This definitely wasn't a business district. She parked in front of a rundown community center. The sign read, Hope Valley Community Outreach. Paint peeled from the walls. The parking lot was cracked and weedy. David parked down the street, confused. What was Lisa doing here? He watched as she got out of her car, went to the trunk, and pulled out several bags. Not shopping bags, industrial-sized packages that looked heavy. She struggled to carry them toward the building's side entrance. David sat frozen. This wasn't what he expected. Where was the fancy restaurant, the hotel, the other man? After 5 minutes, curiosity overwhelmed him. He got out and walked quietly toward the building. Through a window, he could see inside. What he saw made his heart stop. Lisa stood in a large room filled with people. Not business colleagues, not a secret lover. Homeless people. Maybe 30 of them, sitting at long tables. And Lisa was serving food. She moved from person to person, placing plates in front of them, smiling, talking with each one. Her expensive work blazer was covered with a simple apron. Her perfectly styled hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. David moved to another window to see better. An older woman hugged Lisa. A young man with torn clothes shook her hand gratefully. Children ran up to her, and she knelt down to their level, laughing with them. He recognized the bags she'd brought. They were from the grocery store. She was using her own money to buy food for these people. David's legs felt weak. He leaned against the wall, his mind spinning. This is what she'd been doing? 3 nights a week for 2 months? He walked to the main entrance and pushed open the door. The smell of hot food and coffee hit him. Conversation filled the air. Lisa stood at the far end of the room, her back to him, pouring soup into bowls. An elderly man near the door looked up at David. You here for dinner, son? There's plenty. I'm looking for someone, David managed to say. Lisa Harrison. The old man's face lit up. Miss Lisa? She's an angel, that one. Saved my life, she did. You know her? She's my wife. The man's eyes widened. Your wife? Then you're a blessed man. That woman has a heart of pure gold. Before David could respond, a young woman with a baby approached. Are you Lisa's husband? She talks about you all the time. She says you're the best man she knows. David felt his throat tighten. She says that? All the time. She says she wishes she could tell you about this place, but she's afraid you'd worry about her safety coming to this neighborhood. A middle-aged woman joined them. Your wife feeds us 3 times a week. She buys the food herself. She cooks it herself. She won't take any help or donations. She says it's her calling. David walked deeper into the room, and that's when Lisa turned around. Their eyes met across the crowded space. Her face went pale. The ladle in her hand nearly dropped. David? He couldn't speak. Emotions overwhelmed him. Relief, guilt, love, admiration. Lisa quickly handed the ladle to a volunteer and rushed over. What are you doing here? I followed you, he admitted, his voice breaking. I thought you were... Understanding crossed her face. Oh, David. Oh, no. She grabbed his hands. I'm so sorry, I should have told you. Why didn't you? Tears filled her eyes. Because I knew you'd worry. This neighborhood isn't safe. These people need help, but you would have tried to stop me or insisted on coming with me. And you work so hard already. I didn't want to add to your burden. Add to my burden? David pulled her into his arms, not caring that everyone was watching. Lisa, I thought I was losing you. I thought you were having an affair. She pulled back, shocked. What? Never. David, you're everything to me. Then why all the secrecy? She looked around at the faces watching them. Come with me. Lisa led him to a small office at the back. She closed the door and they sat down. She took a deep breath. 6 months ago, I came to this neighborhood by accident. My car broke down here. While I waited for a tow truck, I saw a woman digging through a dumpster for food. She had 2 small children with her. David listened, his heart aching. I gave her money for dinner, Lisa continued. She started crying. She said it was the first kindness anyone had shown her in months. That moment changed something in me, David. So you started feeding people? I couldn't stop thinking about her and those children. I did research and found out this community center tries to provide meals, but they're underfunded. So I started volunteering. 1 night a week at first. But now it's 3 nights? She nodded. Word spread. More people came. I couldn't turn them away. I started buying more food, cooking bigger meals. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday became feeding nights. David sat back, processing everything. The late nights, the exhaustion, the secrecy. I'm sorry I lied, Lisa said quietly. I was afraid you'd think I was crazy, or that you'd worry too much. This neighborhood has problems. Drugs, crime. But these people, David, they're just hungry. They're not dangerous. They're grateful. Show me, David said suddenly. What? Show me what you do here. Introduce me to them. Lisa's eyes brightened. Really? Really. I want to understand this part of your life. They returned to the main room together. Lisa introduced David to person after person. Each had a story. Marcus, a veteran who lost his home after medical bills piled up. Jennifer, a single mother who worked 2 jobs but still couldn't afford rent. Timothy, a teenager who aged out of foster care with nowhere to go. David helped serve food. He listened to stories. He saw how Lisa knew everyone's name, remembered details about their lives, treated each person with dignity and respect. An hour later, as they cleaned up, the elderly man David had met earlier approached them. Thank you for sharing your wife with us, he said to David. I know it's a sacrifice. David looked at Lisa, who was laughing with some children in the corner. No, he said softly, it's a privilege. When they finally left the community center at midnight, David drove Lisa's car while she dozed in the passenger seat, exhausted from a long day at her real office, followed by hours of volunteer work. As he drove, David thought about the past 2 months, his suspicions, his hurt feelings, his jealousy. He'd been so focused on what he thought he was losing that he'd missed who his wife really was. She wasn't having an affair. She was having a love affair with humanity. She was feeding the hungry, comforting the lonely, giving hope to the hopeless. When they got home, David carried a sleeping Lisa inside. As he laid her on their bed, she stirred. "I'm sorry I lied," she whispered. "I'm sorry I doubted you," he replied. "Are you angry?" David thought about the faces he'd seen tonight, the gratitude, the hope, the love in that rundown community center. "No," he said. "I'm proud, but things are going to change." Lisa sat up worried. "What do you mean?" "I mean you're not doing this alone anymore. From now on, I'm coming with you. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "David, and we're going to do this right. We'll organize it properly. Maybe get others involved. Set up a real program." Lisa threw her arms around him. "I love you so much." "I love you too. And Lisa?" "Yes. No more secrets. Whatever you're passionate about, I want to be part of it. We're a team." She nodded against his chest. A team. As David held his wife, he realized how close he'd come to destroying everything over a misunderstanding. He'd followed her expecting heartbreak, and he'd found it. Not in betrayal, but in the heartbreaking reality of people suffering in their own city, while he'd remained comfortably unaware. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, David held his wife and understood that he'd married not just a beautiful woman, but a beautiful soul. The truth had indeed been heartbreaking, just not in the way he'd feared. The next morning, David woke up early. Lisa was already in the shower, getting ready for her actual job at Sterling and Associates. He lay in bed thinking about everything he'd witnessed the night before. His phone buzzed. Marcus had texted. "So, what happened? Did you follow her?" David typed back. "Call you later. It's complicated." Complicated bad or complicated good? Complicated amazing. What does that mean? It means I'm an idiot who married a saint. David got up and made breakfast. When Lisa came downstairs, she looked surprised to see pancakes, eggs, and fresh coffee waiting. "What's this?" she asked, smiling. "Breakfast for my hard-working wife," David replied. "Both jobs." She kissed him. "About last night." "No apologies," he interrupted. "Today we make plans. Real plans." Over breakfast, they talked seriously. Lisa explained that she'd been spending nearly $1,000 a month of her own money on food for the community center. She bought supplies at discount stores, cooked large batches, and transported everything herself. "That's not sustainable," David said. "And it's not safe for you to do alone." "I know," Lisa admitted. "I've been exhausted, but I can't stop now. Those people depend on me." David pulled out his laptop. "What if we turn this into something bigger? A proper community program?" "How?" "We could start a nonprofit, apply for grants, get corporate sponsors. My company has a community outreach program that matches employee donations." Lisa's eyes widened. "You'd really do that?" "We'd really do that, together." For the next hour, they researched nonprofit requirements, drafted mission statements, and made lists of potential donors. Lisa had to leave for work, but she was energized in a way David hadn't seen in months. "See you tonight?" she asked at the door. "Definitely. And Lisa, I'm coming with you to the community center next time. No arguments." She grinned. "No arguments." After she left, David called Marcus. "Okay, explain," Marcus demanded immediately. "What happened?" David told him everything. The community center, the homeless people, Lisa's secret mission of feeding the hungry. Marcus was silent for a long moment. "Man, I feel like trash now. I basically accused your wife of cheating." "You didn't know. I didn't know." "So what now?" "Now I become a better husband by supporting what she cares about." That evening, David left work early. He stopped at a restaurant supply store and bought industrial-sized pots, serving utensils, and storage containers. Then he went to a wholesale grocery store and filled 2 carts with food. When Lisa got home, she found their garage filled with supplies. "David, what is all this?" "Reinforcements," he said proudly. "If we're feeding people, we're doing it right." On Thursday, David left his office at 6 p.m. sharp. His coworkers noticed. "Hot date?" his assistant asked. "Something like that," David replied, smiling. He met Lisa at the community center at 7 p.m. Together, they unloaded the supplies he'd bought. The regular volunteers, 3 elderly women who helped with serving, looked shocked. "Lisa, who's this handsome man?" one asked. "This is my husband, David." "Your husband? Finally, she talks about you constantly." David and Lisa worked side by side that night. He met more people, heard more stories, and began to understand the depth of need in their city. A city where he'd lived comfortably, while blocks away people struggled to eat. Marcus, the veteran, approached David. "Your wife told us you might join her work. That's good. She needs support." "Why do you say that?" Marcus lowered his voice. "There's a man who comes here sometimes. Angry guy. He harasses Lisa, says terrible things. We try to protect her, but we're not exactly threatening." He gestured to his weathered frame. David's protective instincts flared. "What man? What has he said?" "Calls her names, says she's wasting her time on worthless people. Last week, he followed her to her car. Timothy, the young kid, walked her out. But we worry." David's jaw tightened. "Show me this man if he comes tonight." But the evening passed peacefully. As they cleaned up, David noticed how Lisa interacted with everyone. She knew Jennifer's daughter had a birthday coming up. She asked Timothy about his job interview. She encouraged Marcus to keep attending his VA appointments. These weren't just people she fed. They were her community. On the drive home, David said, "Marcus told me someone's been bothering you." Lisa's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "It's nothing." "It's not nothing. Who is he?" She sighed. "His name is Richard Caldwell. He owns some properties in the area. He wants to buy the community center building and tear it down to build luxury condos. He thinks we're preventing his development." "Has he threatened you?" "Just words. He's trying to intimidate me into giving up." David felt anger rising. "You should have told me. I didn't want you to worry. Lisa, I'm your husband. Worrying about you is literally my job description." She smiled slightly. "I know. I'm sorry. I've gotten so used to handling everything alone." "Not anymore," David said firmly. "We're in this together now." The next morning, David did something he'd never done before. He called his father, Richard Harrison, a prominent real estate attorney in the city. "Son, is everything okay?" his father asked, surprised by the early call. "Dad, I need legal advice. Lisa and I are starting a nonprofit." Over coffee an hour later, David explained everything to his father. The community center, the feeding program, Lisa's secret mission, and the developer trying to shut them down. His father listened carefully, taking notes. "This Richard Caldwell, I know him. He's aggressive but not illegal. However, if he's harassing Lisa, that's different. Can you help us?" "I can do better than help. I can make sure that community center never closes." "How?" His father smiled. "Leave it to me. But David, I'm proud of you. And I'd like to meet Lisa's community." That Saturday, David's father joined them at Hope Valley Community Outreach. He came in his expensive suit, and David worried the homeless guests would be uncomfortable. But his father surprised him. The older attorney sat with Marcus, the veteran, for an hour discussing military benefits. He talked with Jennifer about tenant rights. He made calls on the spot to help Timothy find housing resources. "Your father is amazing," Lisa whispered to David. "I know. I should have asked for his help sooner." As the evening ended, Richard Harrison made an announcement. "Excuse me, everyone. May I have your attention?" The room quieted. "My name is Richard Harrison. I'm David's father and Lisa's father-in-law. I came here tonight to see what my family has been working on." He paused, emotion crossing his face. "What I found is the most important work happening in this city." People smiled but looked confused about where this was going. "I'm an attorney," he continued, "and starting Monday, I'm taking this community center pro bono as my client. Anyone who tries to shut this place down will have to go through me first." The room erupted in applause. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. David hugged his father. "Thank you, Dad," he whispered. "Thank you for showing me this, son." But the victory celebration was short-lived. As people were leaving, a man stormed through the door. He was in his 50s, expensive suit, red face, and furious eyes. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. The room fell silent. David saw Lisa tense beside him. "Richard Caldwell," she whispered. Caldwell pointed at Lisa. "You! I told you to stop this nonsense. This building is condemned. You're trespassing." David's father stepped forward calmly. "Actually, Mr. Caldwell, this building is not condemned. I checked the city records this afternoon." Caldwell turned. "Who are you?" "Richard Harrison, attorney, and as of today, legal counsel for Hope Valley Community Outreach." Caldwell's face turned redder. "You can't stop me. I have plans. I have investors." "Then make your plans elsewhere," the elder Harrison replied coolly. "This facility has proper permits, proper insurance, and now proper legal protection." "I'll sue." "Please do. I'll enjoy destroying your case in court." Caldwell looked around the room at all the faces staring at him. For a moment, David saw something flicker in the man's expression. Shame? Recognition? "You people don't understand," Caldwell said, his voice less aggressive now. "This neighborhood is dying. My development would bring jobs, money, progress." Marcus, the veteran, stood up slowly. "This center feeds 60 people 3 times a week. That's progress, Mr. Caldwell. Real progress." Jennifer stood next. "I work 2 jobs but can't afford food sometimes. This place saves my family. That's worth more than your condos." One by one, people stood. Timothy, the elderly volunteers, families with children. They didn't shout. They didn't threaten. They simply stood, silent witnesses to the importance of this place. Caldwell looked at them all. Something in his face changed. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "Now you do," David's father replied. "The question is, what will you do with that knowledge?" Caldwell stood there for a long moment. Then he turned and walked out without another word. After he left, the room exhaled collectively. Lisa collapsed into a chair, shaking. "It's over," David said, kneeling beside her. "He won't bother you anymore." "How do you know?" "Because my father just made it very clear that there are easier buildings to develop." David's father approached them. "Lisa, I owe you an apology." "For what?" she asked, confused. "For not knowing about this sooner, for not seeing the need in my own city, for raising a son who didn't notice either, until now." "Dad," David started. "No, it's true. You two are doing the work I should have been doing all along. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." That night, as David and Lisa drove home, she was unusually quiet. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I'm thinking about that first night when my car broke down here. How scared I was. How I almost didn't stop to help that woman and her children. But you did." "Yes, and it changed everything. David, when you followed me last week, what did you think you'd find?" He took a deep breath. "Honestly, I thought you were having an affair." She turned to look at him. "And instead?" "Instead, I found out I'm married to someone much better than I deserve." "That's not true." "It is. You saw a need and you did something about it. I lived in this city my whole life and never saw what was right in front of me." Lisa reached over and took his hand. "You see it now. That's what matters." When they got home, David noticed something on their doorstep, an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a note. "For Hope Valley Community Outreach. Let's build something bigger together. Richard Caldwell." David stared at the check in disbelief. "The developer, he donated." Lisa read the note, tears streaming down her face. "We changed his heart, David. We actually changed someone's heart." They stood there in their doorway, holding each other and the check that would feed hundreds of people for months. "What do we do now?" Lisa asked. David smiled. "Now we dream bigger. If we changed one person's heart, imagine what else is possible." 6 months later, David stood at a podium in front of 200 people. The old Hope Valley Community Center had been transformed. Fresh paint covered the walls. New kitchen equipment gleamed. Tables and chairs filled the expanded dining area. "Thank you all for coming to the grand reopening of Hope Valley Community Outreach," David said into the microphone. "This center now serves meals 5 nights a week instead of 3. We've added a job training program, a clothing bank, and medical clinics twice a month." Applause filled the room. Lisa stood to his right, beaming with pride. David's father sat in the front row. Marcus, Jennifer, Timothy, and dozens of others who'd been served by this place filled the seats. None of this would exist without my wife, Lisa Harrison, David continued. 6 months ago, she was secretly feeding 60 people 3 times a week, using her own money, her own time, and her own strength. She did it without recognition, without help, without telling anyone, including me. The audience laughed softly. I followed her one night because I thought she was betraying me, David admitted. What I discovered was that she was actually being faithful to something bigger than both of us, to the call to serve others. Lisa wiped her eyes. Today we're announcing something new, David said. Thanks to a major donation from Richard Caldwell. Yes, that Richard Caldwell. We're breaking ground next month on Hope Valley Housing. 20 apartments for families transitioning out of homelessness. The applause was deafening. Richard Caldwell stood from his seat in the middle of the room and waved awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with attention. After the ceremony, people mingled. David watched as his father talked with Marcus about setting up a veterans support group. He saw Jennifer showing her daughter around the new children's area. Timothy was helping in the kitchen, now a paid employee of the center. Lisa appeared beside him, sliding her arm through his. Quite a journey from that first night, she said. When I thought you were cheating on me? David laughed. Yeah, quite a journey. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't followed me? All the time. I probably would have destroyed our marriage over my own suspicions and pride. Or I would have eventually collapsed from exhaustion and had to tell you anyway. They stood together, watching the community they'd built. Richard Caldwell approached them, less aggressive than he'd been 6 months ago. He looked almost humble. Mrs. Harrison, Mr. Harrison, he said formally. Richard, David replied, thank you for coming. I wanted to see what my money built, Caldwell said. Then he paused. Actually, that's not entirely true. I wanted to apologize. You've already apologized, Lisa said gently. Not properly. 6 months ago, I saw this place as an obstacle to profit. I saw these people as, he struggled with the word, as less than human, as problems to be moved aside. And now? David asked. Now I see them as people, as neighbors, as fellow human beings who deserve dignity. He looked at Lisa. You taught me that. By refusing to give up, by serving with love instead of judgment, you changed how I see the world. Lisa smiled. We're glad you're here, Richard, surely. After Caldwell walked away, David's phone buzzed. It was Marcus, his best friend, texting. Bro, I'm outside. Can you come here? Need to show you something. David found Marcus in the parking lot, leaning against his car with a huge grin. What's up? David asked. Marcus gestured to a young woman standing nervously nearby. David, this is Christina. Christina, this is my best friend David. Christina stepped forward. Mr. Harrison, I wanted to thank you. 2 months ago, I came to this center. I was homeless, pregnant, and terrified. Your wife Lisa helped me get into emergency housing. Your father helped me get my ex to pay child support. You hired me for data entry at your office. David recognized her now. She worked in his company's accounting department. I start nursing school next semester, Christina continued, tears in her eyes. I have a safe apartment. My baby is healthy. You saved our lives. David felt his throat tighten. You did the hard work, Christina. We just provided some resources. No, she said firmly. You provided hope. That's worth more than any resource. After Christina left, Marcus put his hand on David's shoulder. Remember when I told you to follow your wife because I thought she was cheating? I remember. I'm sorry for that. But I'm also not sorry, because it led to all of this. David nodded. Sometimes God uses our worst suspicions to reveal our best possibilities. Inside, the celebration continued. David watched as volunteers, there were 25 now, compared to 3 6 months ago, served food to over 100 people. Donors mingled with guests. Board members discussed future programs. His father approached with an elderly woman David didn't recognize. Son, This is Margaret Chen, his father said. She owns the building next door. She wants to donate it to the center. Margaret smiled. My husband and I bought that building 40 years ago. We always meant to do something good with it. I think this qualifies. David was speechless. Mrs. Chen, that building is worth at least $500,000. And I'm donating it. Use it for your programs. And Saz, what you're doing here? She looked around. My husband died last year. He'd be proud to see his property used this way. Lisa joined them, and David explained. She hugged Margaret tightly. We'll name it after your husband, Lisa said. The Chen Community Resource Center. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. He would have loved that. As the evening wound down, David and Lisa stayed to help clean up. They were exhausted, but satisfied. I got an email today, Lisa said as she wiped down tables, from Sterling and Associates. David looked up, concerned. Your job? They want to make me VP of Corporate Social Responsibility. They said my work here has been incredible publicity for the firm. Clients love that their marketing executive runs a nonprofit. That's amazing. Congratulations. There's more. They want to donate $100,000 annually to Hope Valley, and they want to encourage other employees to volunteer here. David hugged her tightly. Everything's coming together. It is. But David, I'm scared. Of what? Of losing this. Of things getting too big, too corporate, too complicated. I started this because I wanted to help hungry people. I don't want it to become about donors and press releases and board meetings. David understood. Then we make sure it doesn't. We keep coming here every week. We keep serving meals ourselves. We stay connected to the people, not just the programs. She nodded against his chest. Promise? Promise. This is our community now. We don't abandon it. The last volunteer left around 10 p.m. David and Lisa locked up the center together. As they walked to their cars, they saw a figure sitting on the steps outside. It was Richard Caldwell. Richard? Lisa called. Is everything okay? Caldwell stood up slowly. In the parking lot lights, David could see he'd been crying. I'm sorry to bother you, Caldwell said. I didn't want to go home yet. What's wrong? David asked. My wife left me 3 months ago. My children don't speak to me. I have a beautiful house that's completely empty. He looked at the community center. Tonight, watching this celebration, I realized I've spent my whole life building things. Buildings, developments, wealth. But I never built anything that mattered. Lisa sat down on the steps and gestured for Caldwell to sit beside her. David joined them. It's not too late, Lisa said gently. You're here now. You donated to this cause. You're changing. But I've wasted so much time. I'm 62 years old. I've hurt so many people in the name of profit and progress. Richard, David said, 6 months ago you tried to shut this place down. Tonight you're sitting on these steps crying because you finally understand what really matters. That's not wasting time. That's finding purpose. Caldwell wiped his eyes. My son is homeless. Did you know that? My own son. We had a fight 5 years ago about my business practices. He said I was heartless. I threw him out and told him never to come back. Lisa's hand went to her heart. Oh, Richard. I've been looking for him for 3 years. He could be anywhere. He could be, Caldwell gestured to the center, he could be one of the people you serve in there, and I wouldn't even know. They sat in silence for a moment. What's your son's name? David asked. Daniel. Daniel Caldwell. He'd be 32 now. Lisa pulled out her phone and scrolled through photos. She stopped on one and showed it to Caldwell. Is this him? Caldwell's hands shook as he took the phone. In the photo, a man in his 30s served food at the community center. He had Caldwell's eyes and his strong jaw. That's Daniel, Caldwell whispered. That's my son. When was this taken? Last month, Lisa said gently. He volunteers here every Monday and Wednesday. He's been clean for 2 years. He's got a job at a warehouse. He's doing well. Caldwell couldn't speak. He just stared at the photo, tears streaming down his face. He doesn't know about your donation, David said. We can tell him if you want, or we can arrange a meeting, or we can do nothing. It's your choice. Does he hate me? Lisa hesitated. He's hurt. He's angry. But he talks about you sometimes. He says he wishes things had been different. Caldwell handed back the phone with shaking hands. I don't deserve his forgiveness. Maybe not, Lisa agreed. But maybe he needs to give it anyway, for his own peace. Will you help me? Caldwell asked. Will you help me talk to my son? Yes, David said. But Richard, you should know, reconciliation isn't instant. It takes time, humility, and retrial continued and consistent effort. I don't care how long it takes, Caldwell said. I just want a chance to tell him I'm sorry, to tell him he was right about me. Lisa smiled. Come back Wednesday evening. Daniel will be here. We'll introduce you properly. After Caldwell left, David and Lisa sat on the steps alone. The night was quiet now. Stars sparkled above them. Did you know Daniel was Caldwell's son? David asked. I suspected. Same last name, and Daniel mentioned his father was a developer. But he never wanted to talk about it. This is going to be complicated. The best things usually are. David took his wife's hand. 6 months ago, I sat in our living room convinced you were destroying our marriage. Tonight, I'm sitting here watching you heal broken families. We're healing them together, Lisa corrected. I couldn't do any of this without you. Yes, you could. You did it for months before I knew. Maybe, but it's better with you beside me. They sat in comfortable silence. Then David said, I was thinking about Christina today, the young mother Marcus introduced us to. What about her? She said we gave her hope. But Lisa, you gave me hope too. When I followed you that night, I was broken. I thought I'd lost you. I thought our marriage was over, but you found me instead. I found us, the real us, not the couple who lived separate lives and ate dinner in silence, but the couple who could build something meaningful together. Lisa leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you, David Harrison. I love you too, Lisa Harrison. 2 days later, Wednesday evening arrived. David and Lisa were at the community center early, setting up for the meal service. Daniel Caldwell arrived at 6 p.m. as usual, ready to volunteer. Hey, Daniel, Lisa called. Can we talk to you for a minute? Daniel followed them to the small office. He was tall and lean, with kind eyes and rough hands from his warehouse work. Is everything okay? He asked. There's someone who wants to see you, David said carefully. Someone you haven't seen in a while. Daniel's face changed. Who? Before they could answer, there was a knock on the door. Richard Caldwell stood there, looking more vulnerable than David had ever seen him. Hello, Daniel, Caldwell said quietly. Daniel's entire body tensed. What is he doing here? He asked to see you, Lisa said gently. You can say no, but he has something he wants to say. Daniel looked between his father and Lisa, then at the door, clearly considering leaving. But he didn't move. 5 minutes, Daniel said coldly. That's all you get. Caldwell nodded gratefully. David and Lisa moved to leave, but Daniel stopped them. Stay, he said. I want witnesses. They stayed, standing near the door while father and son faced each other. I'm sorry, Caldwell began, his voice shaking. I'm sorry for throwing you out. I'm sorry for choosing money over you. I'm sorry for being the father I was instead of the father you needed. Daniel's jaw clenched. You're 5 years too late. I know, but I couldn't let another day pass without telling you that you were right. About everything. About my business practices, about my priorities, about my character. What changed? Daniel asked bitterly. Why now? Caldwell gestured to the center around them. This place changed me. These people changed me. Lisa and David changed me. They showed me what actually matters in life. So you had to lose everything to figure out basic human decency? Yes, Caldwell admitted simply. I did. Daniel stood silent, arms crossed, face hard. I don't expect you to forgive me, Caldwell continued. I don't expect anything from you. I just needed you to know that I was wrong. That you were the best thing in my life, and I threw you away because of my own pride and greed. You destroyed our family, Daniel said, voice breaking slightly. Mom left you. My sister won't even say your name. I've been homeless. I've been addicted. I've been in places you can't imagine. I know, and that's on me. Damn right it's on me. Caldwell reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. This is the deed to your grandmother's house, the one she left to me. It's yours now. It's paid off. You can live there or sell it, whatever you want. Daniel stared at the envelope like it might explode. I don't want your guilt money. It's not guilt money. It's your inheritance. It should have been yours years ago. Daniel didn't take the envelope. Caldwell set it on the desk. There's something else, Caldwell said. I've started a scholarship fund in your name. For young people recovering from addiction who want to go to college. The Daniel Caldwell Second Chance Scholarship. Daniel's eyes widened. You what? You turned your life around without any help from me. You got clean, got a job, started volunteering to help others. You're the man I should have been. Caldwell's voice cracked. I'm so proud of you, son. That broke through Daniel's armor. Tears filled his eyes. You can't just show up and say these things. You can't just fix years of damage with words and money. I know, but I had to start somewhere. Daniel wiped his eyes roughly. I don't know if I can forgive you. I understand. But, Daniel hesitated, maybe I could try. Slowly, very slowly. Hope flickered across Caldwell's face. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is, Daniel agreed. Then, after a long pause, I volunteer here Mondays and Wednesdays. If you wanted to volunteer too, on those same days, that would be acceptable. Caldwell nodded, unable to speak. But you work with me, Daniel continued. You don't supervise, you don't give orders. You serve food and you listen to people and you remember that these are human beings, not obstacles. I can do that. Daniel looked at Lisa and David. Is this okay with you two, having both of us here? Lisa smiled through her own tears. More than okay. This is exactly what this place is for. Healing, second chances, family. Daniel took a shaky breath. Then I guess we'll see you Monday, Dad. The word Dad hung in the air like a fragile gift. Caldwell's face crumpled, but he managed to nod and whisper, Thank you. After Caldwell left, Daniel sat down heavily in the desk chair. That was the hardest thing I've ever done, he said. David squeezed his shoulder. You did good, man. I don't know if I can really forgive him. You don't have to decide today, Lisa said. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. Daniel looked up at them. How did you know? That reaching out to him was what I needed. We didn't, David admitted. We just knew that broken families deserve a chance to heal, just like broken people do. Over the next 3 months, something beautiful happened. Richard Caldwell showed up every Monday and Wednesday without fail. He served food beside his son. He listened to stories from homeless veterans, single mothers, and struggling families. He learned people's names. He asked about their lives. He was terrible at it at first. Too formal, too uncomfortable, too used to being in charge. But Daniel was patient, teaching him how to talk to people without condescension, how to serve without superiority. Slowly, they began to talk during their shifts. Short conversations about simple things, the weather, sports. Eventually, harder topics, the past, the pain, the possibility of a future. Marcus watched their progress and told David one evening, Your wife didn't just feed hungry people, she fed hungry souls, including mine. David found Lisa in the kitchen, checking inventory. Did you know this would happen? That following you that night would lead to all of this? She laughed. I thought you'd yell at me for lying. I thought you'd make me stop coming here. I never imagined this. Neither did I. I followed you expecting heartbreak. And what did you find? David looked around the bustling community center. Daniel and Richard working side by side. Christina studying nursing textbooks between serving shifts. Jennifer's children playing safely in the new childcare area. Timothy teaching a job skills workshop. Marcus leading a veterans support group. I found out what heartbreak really means, David said. It's not betrayal or infidelity. It's seeing people suffer and choosing to look away. That's heartbreak. And what we do here? This is heart healing. We take broken pieces and make them whole. 6 months later, David stood in the same parking lot where he'd first followed Lisa. But now he wasn't alone. 50 volunteers gathered around him, ready for a new initiative. A mobile food truck that would bring meals to neighborhoods too far from the center. Lisa addressed the crowd. When this started, I was one woman with grocery bags and a dream. Now we're a community. We feed over 300 people weekly. We've housed 42 families. We've helped 63 people find employment. Applause erupted. But the numbers don't tell the real story, she continued. The real story is Richard and Daniel Caldwell, father and son, reconciled after years of pain. The real story is Christina, who came to us homeless and pregnant, and now starts nursing school next week. The real story is every single person who walked through our doors hungry, not just for food, but for dignity, hope, and human connection. David watched his wife, still amazed by her strength and vision. She'd been working late, but not in the way he'd feared. She'd been building something eternal while he'd been worried about something trivial. After the event, they drove home together, exhausted but happy. "I need to tell you something," Lisa said as they pulled into their driveway. David's heart skipped. Those words still made him nervous after everything. "I'm pregnant," she said, smiling. David's mind went blank for a moment, then joy flooded through him. "Really? Really? We're having a baby." He kissed her, laughing. "When?" "6 months. I found out last week but wanted to wait for the right moment." David pulled back, looking at her seriously. "Lisa, you can't keep secrets anymore, even good ones." She laughed. "I know, but I wanted tonight to be about the community. Tomorrow can be about us." They sat in their car, holding hands, looking at their house. "Our child is going to grow up seeing their mother feed the hungry," David said, "seeing their father support justice, learning that life is about more than comfort and wealth." "That's a lot of pressure on one baby," Lisa joked. "No, it's just love. We'll teach them to love well." 9 months later, on a Tuesday evening, David stood in the community center holding his 3-month-old daughter, Emma. Lisa was leading a training session for new volunteers. Emma cooed in his arms, watching the activity around her. Daniel Caldwell approached, his father Richard beside him. They'd been working side by side for over a year now, their relationship still healing but growing stronger. "She's beautiful," Daniel said, touching Emma's tiny hand. "Thank you. Want to hold her?" Daniel took the baby carefully. Richard watched with soft eyes. "My father and I are starting a business together," Daniel said. "A nonprofit development company. We're going to build affordable housing." "That's incredible," David said. "We want to call it Second Chance Development, based on everything we learned here." Richard spoke quietly. "My son taught me that buildings are just structures unless they shelter human dignity. I spent 40 years building the wrong things. Now I want to build things that matter." Emma grabbed Daniel's finger and held tight. Everyone laughed. "She's got a strong grip," Richard observed, "like her mother." Marcus joined them, grinning. "Family reunion happening over here?" "Something like that," David replied. They stood together, 4 men from completely different backgrounds, united by this place and the woman who'd created it. Lisa finished her training session and joined them. She took Emma from Daniel and kissed her daughter's forehead. "I was just thinking," Marcus said, "about that first night when Lisa defended that old man, me, against Vanessa. Actually, wait, wrong story," he laughed. "I mean, that first night when I told David to follow his wife because I thought she was cheating." "You did do that," David laughed. "Worst advice that led to the best outcome," Marcus said. "That's got to count for something." "It counts for everything," David replied, "because it taught me that sometimes our fears lead us exactly where we need to go." Lisa looked at her family, her husband, her daughter, and this extended community they'd built together. "I have a confession." Everyone waited. "That first night when my car broke down here, it wasn't really broken. The engine was just overheated. I could have called a tow truck and left immediately." "What?" David stared at her. "You stayed here on purpose?" "I saw that woman digging through the dumpster with her children. I couldn't leave. Something told me I was supposed to be here, that this moment mattered." "So you've been lying from the beginning," David joked. "Not lying, just following a call I didn't fully understand yet." "And now?" Lisa looked around the center, at the people being fed and cared for. at the families being reunited, at the hope being restored. Now I understand. Sometimes heartbreak leads to healing. Sometimes following someone reveals who they really are. And sometimes the late nights that worry us the most are actually someone changing the world. David kissed his wife's forehead, then his daughter's. I love you both more than words can say. We love you too, Lisa replied. Now let's get back to work. We have people to feed. As they returned to serving the evening meal, David realized that the night he followed Lisa had been the best mistake of his life. He'd expected to find betrayal. Instead, he'd found purpose. He'd followed her expecting heartbreak, and he'd found it. In the faces of hungry children, homeless veterans, struggling mothers, and broken families. But he'd also found something stronger than heartbreak. He'd found hope and love, and the knowledge that the most important work happens not in boardrooms or offices, but in simple acts of service to those who need it most. Emma cooed in Lisa's arms as they served food together, already learning what really mattered in life. Not wealth, not comfort, not prestige, but love, expressed through action, changing one life at a time.